It began with a tip-off from a local urban explorer. Sam Groves, a YouTube creator known for his daring ventures into abandoned spaces, had stumbled across a cellar beneath a derelict Victorian-era house on the outskirts of Holloway. The house, weathered and crumbling, was infamous among locals for its dark past. Neighbors whispered about disappearances in the 1940s, rumors of occult rituals, and a series of tragic accidents that had plagued the family who once lived there. But no concrete evidence had ever surfaced. Sam's discovery reignited interest in the site, and I couldn't resist investigating further. As a journalist with a penchant for the paranormal, I had covered everything from haunted mansions to supposed cryptid sightings. Most cases ended with rational explanations, tricks of light, overactive imaginations, or outright hoaxes. But something about this cellar felt different. Sam had uploaded a teaser video showing faint carvings on the walls, what appeared to be ancient symbols, and a brief, chilling moment where his flashlight had flickered, plunging the space into darkness. His narration trembled as he spoke about the overwhelming sense of dread he'd felt. I arranged to meet Sam at the site. By the time I arrived, the late afternoon sun was already dipping behind the skeletal trees, casting long, ominous shadows. The house loomed ahead, its broken windows resembling empty eye sockets. Sam greeted me with a nervous energy, his backpack stuffed with camera equipment and flashlights. "You're going to want to see this for yourself," he said, his voice low. "But I'm telling you, there's something seriously wrong down there. It's not just creepy. It's oppressive." We entered the house through what remained of the back door. The air inside was thick with mildew and rot, the floor littered with debris. Every step stirred up a choking cloud of dust. Sam led me to a trapdoor in the kitchen, hidden beneath a warped rug. He pulled it open with a groan, revealing a set of narrow, stone steps descending into darkness. The moment we started down, the temperature dropped sharply. My breath misted in the air, and the scent of damp earth mixed with something acrid and metallic. Sam's flashlight beam cut through the gloom, illuminating the cellar's rough stone walls. The symbols he'd mentioned were there, etched deep into the stone. They were angular and unfamiliar, radiating an unsettling energy. I took photos, intending to research them later. "This is where it happened last time," Sam said, pointing to a corner of the room. His voice echoed faintly. The light, it just died. As if on cue, his flashlight flickered, the beam sputtering before going out entirely. Sam cursed, fumbling for a spare. My own flashlight remained steady, but the darkness seemed to press in, almost alive. A faint sound reached my ears, a soft, rhythmic tapping. I turned toward the noise, but there was nothing there. Just the empty cellar. "Did you hear that?" I asked. Sam nodded, his face pale. "It's louder sometimes, like footsteps, but there's never anyone there." We spent the next hour documenting the space, careful not to disturb anything. The carvings covered nearly every wall, interspersed with what looked like crude drawings of figures in cloaks. One image stood out, a large circle containing a jagged spiral, its edges marked with smaller symbols. I photographed it from multiple angles, already imagining the search queries I'd run later. Just as we prepared to leave, something extraordinary happened. A low, guttural moan resonated through the cellar. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but unmistakably human. Sam and I froze, exchanging wide-eyed glances. That wasn't the wind," he whispered. We both turned toward the far wall, where the sound seemed to originate. The air grew heavier with each step we took, as if the room itself resisted our approach. I ran my hand along the wall, feeling for any hidden door or hollow space. Suddenly, a section of stone shifted under my palm, revealing a narrow passage. "No way," Sam breathed. "This wasn't here last time." The passage was barely wide enough for one person, its walls closing in like the throat of some great beast. The smell was stronger here, a sickly sweet stench that turned my stomach. We advanced slowly, our footsteps echoing unnaturally. The tunnel ended in a small chamber, its walls lined with shelves holding dusty jars. Most were empty, but a few contained murky, unidentifiable substances. In the center of the room stood a table, its surface scorched and pitted. Strange tools lay scattered across it. A rusted scalpel, a pestle and mortar, and a blackened candlestick. But it was the object at the far end of the table that drew our attention. It was a book, bound in cracked leather, its cover marked with the same spiral symbol we'd seen earlier. I hesitated before picking it up, the weight of it almost unnerving. The pages were brittle, filled with cramped handwriting in a language I didn't recognize. Interspersed among the text were crude illustrations, a circle of cloaked figures, a man's face twisted in agony, and what looked like a ritual involving fire and blood. Sam was filming everything, his camera capturing the details as I flipped through the pages. Suddenly, he gasped. "Look at this," he said, pointing to an image. It depicted a cellar eerily similar to the one we stood in, complete with the carvings and spiral symbol. Beneath it was a single word in English, summon. Before we could process what it meant, the temperature plummeted further. Our breath came in visible puffs and the faint tapping sound returned, louder this time. It was no longer rhythmic but erratic, like someone frantically pounding on the walls. "We need to leave," Sam said, panic edging his voice. He backed toward the tunnel, his camera still rolling. I followed, clutching the book tightly. As we reached the cellar, the moan came again, louder and more distinct. It wasn't alone. Whispers filled the air, overlapping and unintelligible. Shadows danced across the walls, though our flashlights remained steady. The sense of being watched was overwhelming. We scrambled up the stairs and into the open air, gasping as if we'd been drowning. The house seemed to watch us as we hurried away, its broken windows glinting in the fading light. Sam and I didn't speak until we reached the safety of my car. "What the hell was that?" he finally asked, his voice shaking. I had no answer. Even now, weeks later, I'm haunted by that night. The book sits on my desk, unopened since that day. I've consulted historians and linguists, but no one can identify the language. Some believe it's a cipher. Others think it's a lost dialect. But one thing is clear. The symbols and rituals described within are unlike anything documented before. The house remains abandoned, though locals say strange lights can be seen in its windows at night. Sam refuses to return, convinced we disturbed something that should have been left alone. I've reviewed the footage countless times, trying to make sense of what we saw. Each viewing only raises more questions. What was the purpose of that chamber? Who left the book? And why? And most chilling of all, what did we awaken in that cellar? The answers elude me, and perhaps that's for the best. Some mysteries I've come to believe are better left unsolved.